I'm just a bill, yes, I'm only a bill, and I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. World is a long, long journey to the capital city. It's a long, long wait while I'm sitting in committee, but I know I'll be along. Yeah, I hope and pray that I'll be, but today I'm
It isn't fair, don't tell me I know it, 'cause even with the popular vote, Al Gore lives on my street, right down the street from me. Oh, Al Gore lives on my street, right down the street from me. President Gore lives on my street, right down the street from me. Yeah.
Hey man, I like your song, but you need to get over all that stuff.
That's our tribute to Al Gore. That's the band Monkey Bowl, who actually lives, a one-man band, lives down the street from Al Gore in Nashville with a special guest cameo from Mr. Gore himself. A tribute hitting the trifecta, never to be done again, Oscar, Emmy, Nobel Peace Prize in 1 year. Definitely, it's waking up the political world in America, but I think it's far more important to talk about what the award is about, why it was given to him. It was not given to him so he would get into the presidential race, and we don't know if he's going to do that. We can't get into his head. We could talk about it all day long, but it's not going to change anything. What we can change is our environmental and energy policies at home and abroad. And that's why the Nobel Peace Prize gave this award to Gore and the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, a UN panel of over 2,000 scientists, because global warming is not just about environmental catastrophe. It is about peace as well. As more environmental degradation happens, as there is more loss of land and more refugees, you get more conflict. And people talk about how the conflict in the Sudan is a conflict because of land degradation and desertification, lack of resources fueling conflict. We can see more of that. We will see more of that if we don't address global warming right now. It's an urgent problem, and that's why this award was presented, not just to pat Al Gore on the back, but to get us galvanized, because we can do all these symbolic things. You can watch a movie, you can read a book. If you don't get out of your chair, if you don't press your Congress people and your president, nothing is going to change. And this is now the tough part of things for us. I think what Al Gore has done has been dramatic and critical. We are now done with this ridiculous debate whether global warming is actually happening or not. It is widely accepted that it is happening. The scientific consensus is clear. It is clear that this is a human-made problem that only humans can resolve. And then the question then becomes, what do you do about it? And the opponents of this, the global warming denial community, they haven't gone away. They're just shifting their tactic. They are now moving towards, oh, it's not that big of a problem. Sure, it's a problem, but it's no big deal. Let's not get all crazy about this. Let's not do anything dramatic and bold. We need to galvanize the public around that bold solution. And coming up with that solution is harder than it sounds. It is easier to say this is a problem. It is harder to come up with what you do about it. On November 3rd, there is the Step It Up citizen actions that will be happening across the country, stepitup2007.org. They are proposing a 3-step plan to rally around. That is around green-collar jobs. That is around 80% reduction in carbon emissions by 2050, and a moratorium on coal plants that do not capture and sequester the carbon emissions. And all those three things together are important, because what a lot of the global warming denial side is trying to do is to say that this is a choice between a better environment and a healthy economy. And it is not the choice. It is an utterly false choice. There are plenty of things that we can do that help the environment, stave off global warming, and help the economy. These are job creators. There are green-collar jobs that are going to be created when you invest in renewable energy. There are manufacturing jobs. There are maintenance jobs. There are supervisory jobs. When you do green buildings, for example, you don't have to build the green buildings or retrofit a building. You got to maintain that. That's a high-skilled job, good-paying jobs, often union jobs. That's why the group that I'm affiliated with, Campaign for America's Future, they helped co-found the Apollo Alliance that has brought together labor, businesses, and environmentalists around that vision. They propose $30 billion a year for 10 years to create 3 million green-collar jobs and wean us off of dirty fossil fuels from destabilized regions of the world. That's the kind of stuff that we have to get behind. And as you get deeper into these discussions and deeper into these debates, there are lots of little, wonky landmines that you got to worry about. For example, there is movement in Congress right now around a cap and trade policy to reduce carbon emissions, to cap carbon emissions and to have businesses trade permits to allow them to emit a certain amount of carbon that would be reduced over time and get to a point where it would be reasonable and manageable. There's a big question now. Do you hand out these permits for free, or do you auction them off and make the polluters pay for them? It's a big, big difference. There are proposals in Congress right now. There's one from Joe Lieberman, the independent Democrat, quote unquote. I say that with sarcasm. And John Warner, Republican from Virginia. It's a step in the right direction, but it only auctions off a quarter of these permits, and it gives out 3/4 for free. So we're seeing movement in the right direction. But you really need to auction off as many as 100% as possible. Otherwise, you're giving businesses a continued freebie to pollute. And that's the problem right now. The Step It Up 2000 coalition talks about a one sky agenda. Because it's our sky. Everybody owns the sky, not a handful of businesses. And so when they pollute it for free, the rest of us pay the price. And that's what we need to shift. We need to put the price on the polluters so they suffer the cost for polluting, and therefore they're disincentivized to do it further. That's why you see talk about a carbon tax. That's one way you could do it. You tax the pollution of carbon. But if you are auctioning these pollution permits, it's the same effect. They are paying for pollution, and therefore they are less inclined to do it further. That's the kind of stuff we have to get behind. Barack Obama just put out a plan for 100% auction of these carbon permits. John Edwards is generally behind that. Bill Richardson is behind that. And Chris Dodd is behind a cap and trade with a carbon tax. So we're seeing movement in that direction. These are bold plans that you did not see from Democrats 3 years ago. There wasn't the same sense of urgency that Al Gore has helped create. Hillary Clinton is still a little absent on this. She has co-sponsored good legislation in Congress. She hasn't necessarily put herself behind a specific plan of her own in this race. But like other things, like with healthcare, when Richardson, Edwards, and Obama do something, it tends to push her in the right direction. So we'll see what she does. But on the whole, we have good momentum here, but we can't just sit back and say the Nobel did something. Then we get to sit back and applaud. We have to get in the game. And the one thing I would leave you with before we go to a break here, the one obstacle to all of these ideas is the notion that our government plays a strong role in this, that we can't do this without strong government policies. The word government's taken a beating in the era of Bush and Reagan. But we have evidence of government programs that work, and there is a vote that's going to come up this week about children's health insurance, a state children's health insurance program. This is a government program that has worked. It has succeeded in driving down uninsured rates for kids, while at the same time they've been going up for adults. This has gone against the tide of our health insurance crisis, and it's because government got involved. I don't know if this is going to be overridden in the House. That's the big question on Thursday this week. You should definitely push yourself, your friends, and neighbors to contact their congresspeople. But whether this wins or loses in the House, the thing that we want to have people walk away with is to remind folks this is a government program that worked. Government can work when it's done smartly and effectively. Once we restore that trust, we can channel that into a very strong and necessary global warming strategy. After the break, we'll be talking to Pastor Dan Schultz of StreetProphets.com about the intersection of faith and politics in the 2008 race. This is Bill Scher on the Liberal Oasis radio show.